a shit fest downstairs over the fucking Wi-Fi.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier, and this is the Monday mashup. Joining me, as always, my partners in crime, the Dazzler there, sporting that lovely Dutch top. How are we, Darren? and also joining us, our resident referee, Darren. He has that beautiful top in the background that we had for Paul McGrath the other night. Remember the picture?
Ooh, Paul McGrath. Say, ooh, Paul McGrath.
So,
well, you know what? You won't be singing in your orange tonight. Ooh, up the rah. Anyway, go ahead.
Jesus, Marky, for the day that's in it. For the day that's in it, Marky. For the day that's in it. Well, we're going to bring you a Premier League review. We're going to review the 7 games. Am I right? 7 games that went ahead as far as now, or 8 games that went ahead. 7 games, I think. And we're going to be talking about the latest headlines. And we're also going to be picking out some other news topics and stuff like that to talk about. So it should be an interesting show. If there's anything you want to ask us in the chat, we'll also have time for a little bit of a Q&A. We'll just start trying to jump in. Go on. Go ahead. I
have a great segue in later on into one of our topics. Great one.
Okay.
Real Perfect. Good. Yeah.
Excellent.
I'll have to try and get in at the right time, yeah, but really, really, really good. You'll enjoy this one.
Excellent. And if anyone's in the chat there, if you want to ask us anything, we can have a little bit of a Q&A towards the end as well, because we don't have kind of a full show at the moment, because we've nothing really to preview, because I don't know what the next 2 weeks holds for.
I reckon my son might be in the chat tonight. I reckon he might, because I lettered him of abuse at the weekend over. I was like, yeah, you never come into the podcast, right? You don't share it on your mates and all. Like, you know, it's going to take us forever to get monetized, and it'll be all down to you little swine. And so I'd say now he's thinking, is that him? No, I thought that was him. I was like, Jesus, that was quick. I'd say he's at boxing tonight, but I'd say when he comes to boxing, he's going to feel guilty, you know, and he'll pop in and be like, hiya, Dad.
Morris is back with the tidal wave of Mason Mount stats. He's been hitting us up with plenty of them.
is only back in the league 20 minutes, and he's already got more goals and assists this season than young Mason has.
Absolutely. Morris
and lads, before the end of the show, we'll have to talk about the old fancy league, the Upper Tier. Go ahead, lads.
I'd rather not.
Did you look at it today, Darren?
I didn't look at it today. Should I have?
A certain resident referee is sitting top of the pack. At the moment. Yeah. Which is a sad indictment, really, on the rest of us doing fantasy football.
No, you're doing all right now, I have to say.
Yeah, I was ahead of him, and then he caught up on me there the other day. I think it was Son, was it, that pushed you ahead of everyone?
Yeah.
Did
you have Son at the weekend?
Well. Yeah, I had Harrison Reid as well.
Who?
Yeah, Reid off Fulham. Got a goal and assist.
Bobby De Cordova. Boom.
Yeah, I had him and after. Last week I was going to take Son out, and I thought to myself, he's due a goal, and then I seen him on the bench. I was like,
I did.
Here we go again.
I'm not sorry to say it either. No regrets.
I feel like Aaron Ramsey at the minute. Every time I take someone out in my fantasy football team, they turn into Pele the following week. It's like, fucking hell, man. Someone's doing this to torture me. I swear to God.
Do you know the secret? Just stop taking them out.
Yeah, but I've invested like an awful lot of money in this. I'm in about 43,000 cash leagues. So, like, this is big bucks, you know what I'm saying?
I hope you're doing better than the other ones, because our league is amateur hour, and you are way down.
Yeah, don't forget whose guidance has you where you are as well, by the way, right?
Well, you should start taking some of your own guidance. He reminded me the other day.
So much time keeping your team where it is.
I didn't even realise about the team the other day, and he reminded me, says, make sure you do your fantasy team, and then I hadn't even, then that's only when I went in and looked. Yeah, absolutely. Morris back again. Saliba has been golden in the fantasy too. Another 15 this week. Yeah, he's been golden outside of the fantasy. Morris, he's been absolutely awesome. Arsenal doing well. Let's start then. Friday night.
When he gets a decent partner next to him, he'll be unreal. That Gabriel's a fucking joke. A joke.
They switched him in the other day, didn't they? Didn't they put your boy in beside him the other day out of necessity?
Why? Did they?
Yeah, I think they moved. Didn't they move White in beside him? I think, if I'm right. Was Gabriel injured? Did Gabriel get injured and he moved White in beside him? I think.
And I bet you they were better for it. I'm having a little butcher's here. Hang on.
I think now, I wouldn't be 100%, but I thought I read that or heard it or something when I was watching it.
No, they still had Gabriel and Saliba for the whole game.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, White came off after 86 minutes and they put the right back Tomiyasu on, which is what they've done in nearly every game.
Yeah.
Let's take off the centre back that's playing right back and put another right back on.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Friday night first of all. We had Aston Villa 1, Southampton 0, and we obviously TV got the wrong match. Nottingham Forest 2, Fulham 3. Which was an outstanding game when you went back and looked at the highlights. But Aston Villa, that was
unless you were a Forest fan.
Yeah.
Still a great game. just not a great game the right way. But let's start with Villa, lads. I mean, you could see at the end Stevie G with the celebration. He was under a lot of pressure. Mark, what was your thinking? Are you saying him on the sideline there? Absolutely, like you just won an FA Cup or something.
Well, it keeps them in the job.
I thought they were showing flashbacks of Istanbul. I was like, what the fuck happened here? They just win the Champions League.
That's what it probably felt like for him, because obviously going into the international break, big 3 points, clean sheet at home, only by the 1 goal. But yeah, you take it. Obviously, Southampton are finding it hard to kind of score at the minute, aren't they, as well? And the governor in there, he won't be under too much pressure after that defeat, but that was a massive win for Villa. And like I said, going into that international break, that's exactly what they needed as well.
Yeah. And that international break, Marky, always a good time to make a change in a manager if you need to. Gives them a bit of time to come in and work with players and stuff like that.
Hashtag West Ham. I know.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to talk about Leicester. Don't worry about that. Forest and Fulham, Darren. Great match. We were talking about on Friday night when we were WhatsApping each other going, we're definitely watching the wrong game here. Villa was just like, it was terrible.
Villa was like watching paint dry. It was horrific. It was a woeful game of football. So little quality on show. It was shocking. Do you know the 3 moments of real attacking threat in the game were all provided by Tyrone Mings? At that stage, it was time to turn the fucking telly off.
That says it all, doesn't it?
Lads, there's enough going on here. Yeah. Holy shit balls, man.
And on the other side, how mad was to see Fulham score 3 goals and Mitrovic didn't get one of them?
Yeah. Pouring more fuel on my fantasy football fire.
And me, yeah. The minute I seen the Fulham goals coming through, I was going, Mitrovic has to be one. Every time it clicked, has to be Mitrovic. But
watch him, man. Palhinha, see his goal. That was something else. Great finish, great finish.
Racking up the fancy points this season already.
Yeah.
And being a real good signing for them as well. Absolutely. He was brilliant against us on the first day as well. Absolutely. Let's move into Saturday. Wolves 0, Man City 3.
Standard.
City are just like, even when they come into the early game after playing on the Wednesday, they're just so strong, aren't they? I mean, Haaland just...
Listen, it didn't help with Collins getting sent off, obviously, after 30 minutes or whatever it was. He had to play an hour against City with 10 men. Even with 11 men, it's a tough enough task. But listen, Nathan Collins, he's not that type of player. I know people will say it. It was just a rash decision. An absolute horrible. It was a horrible looking tackle, but then you kind of slow it down, and you see Grealish's reaction like he's been shot in the back or whatever. But yeah, it was tough day at the office for them.
Funny you say that. When Wolves went down to 10 men, when they came out in the second half, they actually played better. They actually got a little bit of control in the game for about 20 minutes.
That can happen. We seen it. Remember that big game against Chelsea, against Hughes? I think Reece James got sent off, and they were so hard to play against 10 men. It can happen, but like as I said it before, Wolves are finding it too hard to score. They've no one up there to put the ball in the back of the net. Diego Costa's after coming in, but he's not the answer. He's a short-term fix for a long-term problem.
Yeah, Morrison, Forrest or shades of Fulham a few years back. Too many signings. I think he probably has to try and figure out what's happening there, really, doesn't he? Yeah,
he definitely hasn't got. A handle on what his best 11 is yet. And I don't even know if system-wise he's decided. Now, I know he likes to play a back 3 and have the wing backs and stuff like that, but at times you're looking at it and you think things seem to bypass the midfield too quickly. And I don't know whether he could deal with, extra bodies in there and go with the flat 4 at the back and stuff like that, and have your wingers much higher up the pitch and let them help out your lone striker, maybe something like that. But I definitely think you'll have to look at a few things, Cooper, because I think if they keep going the way they are, he could be in danger even with all the signings that they've made.
Yeah, and
I
especially,
know. I'm sorry,
especially,
I was going
yeah,
to
no,
say
go ahead.
Spence. I think Spence is a big miss for them. I know he's only on loan last season, but you seen even in the league last season and the FA Cup game against Arsenal, he was so threatening going forward, and he played in Cooper's system that way. I don't think he's found a replacement for him yet, to be honest with you.
The only thing I will say is in those positions, if he played in the right, he's got Neco Williams, and on the left, Renan Lodi. Like, there's two unbelievable footballers there. I think when you're watching a team playing in the Premier League, and I found this when Leeds were playing with the boy Liam Cooper at centre back. I think the left side at centre back is a guy called Scott McKenna. He's fucking miles off the league, absolutely miles off it. And when you play with him, you're playing with a guy who's going to give up a couple of mistakes a game. And in the Premier League, you just can't do that. You just cannot do that. There's guys in there putting in 8s and 7s every week, and
you can't
and especially for Forest at home the other night against Fulham, they would have expected to get a result there and stuff like that. That would
and the game before it was Bournemouth at home, and they lost 4-2 as well, and that's another game they would have been looking at and penciling.
So that's 6 points there they would have been looking at, and not getting them. Morris back in the comments again.
Evening, David.
Yeah, David will be on in a second now. James McLean was bantering Collins big time. The FAI have a video up of it. That'll be interesting. Let's take a look at that. All right. David joining us tonight. Evening, David. Evening, gents. Good to have you on board.
Hello, Davey.
So then we move on. Newcastle won, Bournemouth won, which was probably for me, arguably probably one of the shocks of the weekend. I fully expected Newcastle to go out and get a win here, but the kind of the Newcastle train has kind of halted a little bit for Eddie Howe, hasn't it, Darren?
Excuse me.
Yeah, again, I think obviously the additions in the summer and stuff like that. Eddie's got a couple of new players, and he's still looking how to fit people into the system and stuff like that. And the boy Botman came in very early doors and did well, and he was taken out. And since he's been taken out, they haven't been as solid as they were initially, I think he's got Dan Bourne and Fabian Schär as well, who are playing well. I think the midfield at times they're able to get, teams are able to get at the back four a little bit too easy. And I still think, I think Alexander Isak was a great sign. But I still think, when we know the injury trouble that St. Maxima has, and when they don't have St. Maxima, you're left with maybe Almiron and Fraser. And it's nowhere near the kind of quality.
It's a different energy.
What I mean?
Yeah.
It's different. I feel like they need a 10 and they need a couple of wingers now. We know they've money on the table for the likes of James Maddison. I think Maddison would have been unbelievable for them if they could have then played, the likes of Guimaraes and Joe Linton in midfield with Maddison ahead and then a couple of tricky wingers behind an Isak and stuff like that would have been tops. But I still think there's, we'll see really good stuff from Newcastle this season, and I wouldn't worry about them on the ready how, if I'm honest.
And Trippier was unlucky hitting the post from that free kick, wasn't he? He's something else dead ball.
Yeah, he really is. The Albine's on toast.
The old thing about like Sam Maximin and Fraser, they're probably in or around the same height, but Maximin's built like a brick house, isn't he? Where
he's
Fraser
about 4 foot pound heavier.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. So Fraser
is still able to cover the ground in the same type of speed.
Yeah,
and he's better with his feet. He sucks defenders in so well. The boy's an absolute genius on the football pitch. He really is. Like, other than his shockingly shit hairdo.
Cue the weekly Shelby comment. Shelby would have made the difference. Big loss.
Imagine if the England B team went in playing with Shelby and Mason Mount together. Morris would jizz all over himself in the comments, wouldn't he?
Morris going to be upset if Arsenal don't sign him in January.
And McTominay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the boys.
Brendan Rodgers, lads, in trouble. Spurs 6, Leicester 2. They I don't know what it is. They went toe to toe with Spurs if you were watching this game, and it was kind of back and forth, and they were kind of in the game. And suddenly Spurs just elevated things a tad, and all of a sudden Leicester looked very ordinary. But then he brought on Son, and that was huge. As Mark said, I think, Mark, you mentioned it last week as well, that you thought Son was due a few, or you might have mentioned it to me on WhatsApp that he'd be definitely due a few. And once he got one, he'd be on the way.
Yeah.
Well, he got a hat-trick.
It-
Sort of...
Well, you see, like, two of the goals from set pieces. Leicester's marking from set pieces is diabolical. It was, and it has been over the course of the season, the first 6 or 7 games. But Rodgers is in big trouble. It was 6-2, but that's not the worst I've seen Leicester play this season. In fairness to them, you know.
Yeah, Morris reckons Brendan Rodgers has one more game. Forest at home next, and if they don't win, I personally don't think he has one more game. I think he could be gone by tomorrow or Wednesday. I don't think they pulled the trigger on it today with the funeral and stuff going on and stuff like that. So I think they might pull the trigger tomorrow or Wednesday. There's a lot of talk coming out there at the moment. Stories coming out tonight and all that they've made contact with Sean Dyche and stuff like that and all. So when they're sounding out stuff like that and all, I think the decision is already made. But I don't think they want to trigger it today. With the funeral and all going on and stuff like that.
That'd be an absolute woeful appointment. Woeful.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't disagree,
scary,
and we can talk about it as well. Absolutely.
Because and it's not that I'm not a Sean Dyche fan. I just think for Sean Dyche to work for you, it has to be in a certain kind of a club with a certain type of a budget, the way he can galvanise, where Premier League survival is paramount over other things. And I think at Leicester, with the success they've had over the last number of years, league titles, FA Cup wins and stuff like that, some of the football they've played has been amazing. And with what the owners have done, I don't think Sean Dyche fits them all at all.
100% that's right. But listen, when Michael O'Neill got sacked by Stoke there last month, he was favourite for the job. Stoke will have suited him better than Leicester. No way is he fit for Leicester.
Would have been absolutely perfect for Sean Dyche. Yeah. Perfect. On a windy night in Stoke on a Tuesday with Sean Dyche in the dugout. I mean, football doesn't get any better than that in the Championship, does it?
No. No. Imagine Jamie Vardy trying to deal with those long balls over the top that he likes to play.
God.
He's always had that, the big striker up there. Just it wouldn't work at all.
Yeah, Morris back on, and Danny Ward, what's the story with him? Jeez, so poor, he says he's poor. I think we've spoke about him already this season, haven't we, Darren?
Yeah, he's 100% right, Morris. You've replaced, your fillet steak that left to go to Nice with fucking Aldi burgers or something. It's absolutely criminal, like it really is. It's horse meat. It's the horse meat disco. Like, it's that bad. It really is. The boy Danny Ward. How, by the way, and I need to throw this out on the table. How somebody thought he was going to make it at Liverpool. They want to have a look at themselves as well, because this kid is fucking miles off it. Absolutely miles off it.
More talented Ward.
David's back in. Leicester have been poor at set pieces for a couple of seasons. Rodgers has a bit of time since they've gotten no one in. Poch would do a super job at Leicester if they could convince him. I don't think he's any time left, Dave. I think, honestly, they would have pulled the trigger today only for the funeral. 100%. Listen to the way Rodgers is talking and listen to everything that's coming out in the media at the moment, in the press and all, about who they've spoken to and releasing that stuff. Darren, you were talking to me today, they had a conversation with Solskjaer as well, had they? For the
I don't know if there was a conversation. No, it was...
was it the Leicester job?
It was Leicester.
Oh, it was the Leicester job, yeah, absolutely.
Leicester have already appointed the boy, De Zerbi or whatever he is.
Brighton.
Yeah, Brighton have. But I know I saw Solskjaer's name linked with it. I'm not sure there was contact made, but I know it was linked very gently, let's say. Listen, I got to be honest. As poor a job as he did at United at times, I still think he's a better fit than Sean Dyche. I really do.
He will be. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I think if they do appoint Dyche, it's going to be short term just to survive, isn't it, with the predicament they're in? They're in a really poor predicament at the moment.
You've still enough time to get a decent manager, football and playing manager. You're only 7 games in.
Yeah, Leicester only played at the weekend, which means there are only 7 games in. There's 31 games left. They're not cut adrift at the bottom by 20 points. Like, do you know what I mean? I personally think Rodgers should be given a little more time. Personally. Now, I know other people will think differently. I think he'll get a little more time. I think he'll at least get till, after the break, where he can get a couple of guys back from injuries and stuff like that and refresh the team and stuff. I think, but we shall see.
I don't really have a view in terms of the decision. I just don't see them giving him more time. I think when you look at his interviews, we spoke about it already this season. Like his post-match interviews and all are very, very down, very down. Like, and this is a guy who normally talks up losses.
Yeah, but he's a guy who also had to sell his prize pony for 70 million and got to spend 15 of it in return because they're having their hands slapped over financial fair play. What do you want him to do? Run around the bleeding garden with his top off? Yes, lads, look, they let me spend 15 mil on a centre back. I only need 3 of them. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah, you have to give a guy a break.
Yeah, but I suppose the other argument to that as well is they've obviously spent money if they're in trouble with financial fair play as well, and they've obviously brought in players as well.
They have. They brought in their recruitment.
The likes of Patson Daka and stuff like that, no?
The recruitment last summer, after they won the FA Cup, when they were trying to elevate themselves into the Europa League and stuff like that, where they were really giving it a good spin, things didn't go well. They bought the boy Boubacar Samari from Lille. He's had a shocking time. They brought in Patson Daka. He showed glimpses, but not enough. A lot of signings. The boy Castagna has been in and out through injury. You got the boy James Dustin, and then the other lad Thomas on the other side. Harvey Barnes has been injured. Fardy's been in and out of the team. Like, there's a lot of things haven't clicked at Leicester.
But you also made the point, Darren, a couple of times, didn't you, Darren? That like he's playing players in defence that are midfielders, and he's making strange decisions as well.
Like he's doing that out of necessity because he didn't have players. Fofana was banished to the 23s, and the boy Soyuncu also was leaving the building. He was left with, like, he needed to replace 2 centre backs. He got 1. He's been playing the boy Daniel Amarty, Nepalese Mendy, and Wilfred Ndidi as centre backs, and they're not centre backs. And when they come up against big physical strikers and guys that know how to play the line properly, they're in massive trouble. Like massive.
You've seen Ndidi's mistake there the weekend against Spurs. Like it's just schoolboy stuff. But I do think from a Leicester point of view, I think if you are going to pull the trigger, now's the time with the break that you have to embed a new manager in there. Like Darren says, you'd like to think they'd give him time because you don't like to see managers getting the sack. You like to see him getting a bit of time, embedding the injured players back into the team. But it is going to be a big struggle for them this season, no doubt. And they have a few tricky games coming up after the international break as well, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, David also confirmed the point we were talking about. Letting Schmeichel leave him without attempting to replace him is craziness. Absolutely. I mean, he was an absolute gem for them and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Mark, you're right. I see the problem is if they come out of this international break and they give him more time, you're probably going to have to run it nearly into the World Cup break. And then if they're really in dire straits at that stage, coming back off the World Cup, they're not going to look overly appealing either to people to bring signings in and stuff like that if they don't believe that they can climb out of the predicament they could potentially be in. So I think you're right. I think they're going to have to make a decision. I think at some stage this week. I just don't see how they can, unless they don't fancy Deutsch and they don't fancy. The talk is there was talk of Thomas Frank as well.
Would he leave Brentford though? That's the thing.
I'm not too
Brentford
sure.
have entrusted a lot and invested a lot in over the last few years as well.
What's your thinking on that, Darren? Do you think they'd he has his earphones off. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Darren?
He's on mute.
You're on mute. Because you probably plugged your earphones out.
Can you hear me?
You back? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, the power went on the earphones. Sorry,
I'm
just plugging a new set in.
Yeah,
I was just in the middle of saying, Davey talked about letting a Schmeichel leave without attempting to replace it. We all know how difficult it is to replace a Schmeichel. It took United about 10 years as well, don't forget.
And to find a goalkeeper is so difficult.
Yeah, massive.
But there is younger lads out there. Sorry for coming across you, guys. The likes of Jack Butland and all that was with Stoke. He's second or third choice at Blade Crystal Palace. Like, why don't you take a punt on someone like him?
Yeah, I don't think Jack Butland would be a bad punt if I'm honest. Because as you see, he's third choice at Palace at the minute, behind Vicente Guaita and the boy Sam Johnson. I think Butland would be a great signing for someone like Leicester and would do a great job. But I have to say, I think this isn't an easy time to go looking for a manager. If I'm Leicester, there's a lot of guys that are doing good jobs in places. And Leicester is attractive as they would have been a couple of years ago with the financial fair play and what's going on at the minute. I don't think it would excite an awful lot of managers, you know.
Yeah, we were making the point, Darren, just when you went off there, that Thomas Frank had also been linked with the job, and Mark was making the point. I wanted to get your input on it. Do you see a situation where Thomas Frank might potentially make the decision to leave Brentford and go to Leicester?
Yeah, again, like I think if this is 18 months ago, he probably leaves. I think right now he'd probably look around and say, "Do you know what would I leave? What would I leave the Brentford Community Stadium for? Unless it was a really top job, unless Newcastle, unless Arsenal, unless, to get a step up the way Potter did, but to get a not so sideward step, let's say, I don't think I'd leave for that,
Yeah, Murray's making the point there. Ben Foster as well was a free agent too. Could have done a job. Not a
He's
bad
just
shout.
retired, hasn't he?
Yeah, pretty
I
much.
don't think
In fairness, he lives in the
I'm
Midlands as well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Brentford 0, Arsenal 3. Arsenal playing really well at the moment, especially Saliba and all. Xhaka had a real good game yesterday and all. But the one thing I noticed, and I think I mentioned it in our group yesterday during the game as well, Brentford, I couldn't believe the atmosphere. I couldn't believe the ground. Like, it was so quiet. It was so silent. There was no atmosphere really in it. And Arsenal kind of played into that, and they were literally just allowed to do really whatever they wanted. I was shocked at it. That they were beaten so readily, if you like, and looked so blunt at home. But what's the thinking on Arsenal, lads, at the moment?
Yeah, I just think at the minute, like, Arsenal are they're going through the gears and they're going through the motions and stuff like that. But I still don't think I would look at them as serious title contenders just yet. Just with the teams they played, and obviously the manner and how a lot of the victories have come, where they've just snuck up by the odd goal, or, they've got over the line, let's say, quite well against some of the smaller teams. But, like, they came up against United. We're not in great shakes, and we rolled them over relatively handily. Now, I know at times they played very, very well, and the scoreline didn't maybe reflect the game. But when you get picked off like that, when you go away to Old Trafford and maybe you play all the football and you don't get away with a result, is it down to a mentality type thing? Did the boys envisage themselves winning there? Could they, is there an issue where maybe there's not enough belief there in themselves yet, where they're still kind of working on that side of things that they believe they're a top side? I think they believe they'll beat a lot of the sides in the league, but I think when you look maybe 5 or 6 teams, I think when Arsenal look at those 5 or 6 teams, they shit the bed a little bit. I think for about 15 teams, maybe 14 teams, they're going, yeah, we're up for this. But I think like the likes of Liverpool, City, United, probably even Chelsea and Spurs, I think when they look at kind of those 5 teams, I don't think the lads have the kind of self-belief in themselves just yet to go and win games and stuff like that,
Yeah, I think by the end of October, Mark, with about 8 or 9 fixtures in October for most of the teams, between Europeans and Cups and league games. And I think Arsenal have a patch coming up now. I think when they come back, they're coming back to the North London Derby. I think it's their first game back. And then I think they have to play Liverpool in October as well. I'm not too sure. So that will October will be a big test run. By the end of October, they'll have a reasonable idea. Morris is making the point that the squad is too thin to be contenders.
At the moment, it is, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But I also think at the moment, with the way the league is going and the way it's kind of like, it's very hard to predict results at the moment. I think Darren makes a great point that when you look at that top 5 or 6 teams, traditionally that we would see there, that's the difference between your league contenders and not, and that's often where they slip up. But I think coming in, I think October's going to really tell the tale for them. David's back in the comments as well. He was making the point. Rafa Benitez is out of a job. He could do a job at Leicester, I'm sure.
I think Rafa would do a job anywhere he goes, because I think he's got a bit about him, if I'm honest. But again, I think with the Leicester, with the way Leicester have had success over the last couple of years, I don't necessarily see him as someone where Leicester would look, because I think they'd wanted a more attractive kind of footballing style and stuff like that. We know Rafa's very, very pragmatic in his approach and stuff, and I think that's where the names like, you know, Thomas Frank and stuff have come up. I think that's that's where you'd be looking if you were Leicester, you know what I mean, as opposed to Rafa.
And if you were Leicester at the minute, if you were Leicester, that I'd say from 5 years ago when they had the money, you would be going for someone like a Tuchel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm sure Rafa as well. Rafa wouldn't be cheap either, you know. Rafa knows his worth, you know.
But now, going back to Arsenal there, Niall, I think Arsenal would be 2 injuries away from struggling with their squad. You know, if a Jesus or, you know, a Saka got injured, they would be really struggling. You know, you're relying on Nketiah to get your goals in. And listen, nothing wrong with him, but in terms of class between him and Jesus, I know who I'd be picking every day of the week, you know.
Yeah. And then we rounded out the weekend.
The one thing, the one thing I would say is, I thought, and I know we obviously saw the United game the previous week, when the boy Fabio Vieira came on, I thought he had a good game. And again, yesterday he started the game for Arsenal, and I thought he did very, very well. He wasn't someone that maybe the Arsenal fans got very, very excited about when he came in. But I think maybe, you know, a couple of appearances in, Arsenal fans would be thinking, Jesus, this guy's a baller, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We might have hit the nail on the head here with this. I don't know what Morris thinks of that.
He didn't cost him much either, didn't he? Not does it?
He cost a few quid, alright. It's about 40 million, wasn't it?
35 or something. 35
and
40, I think. Yeah, he wasn't cheap.
Isn't
no one was cheap in the window.
No, yeah, it's not mega bucks, but for a guy to come in, he came in with very little fanfare. You know, they were obviously the Jesus move was like, oh, we got Gabriel Jesus and stuff like that. Whereas with Vieira, it was like, well, just got another Vieira, you know what I mean, type thing.
Yeah, Marta's making the point, a 15-year-old on the pitch is madness as well. We're going to talk about that boy later on, and it's an interesting one. He also says too early to judge Vieira. Yeah, but I suppose you can only judge him on what you're seeing. He came on in the United game and he made a difference. And he played yesterday and he made a difference. And he got a lovely goal as well. So you can only judge him on what's in front of you and stuff like that. And we're not referring to him as a club legend or anything like that. But I think the two outings that we've seen him, Darren, I think he's impressed us. It's fair to say.
He absolutely has. Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely.
Well, listen,
will be Morris.
We will fucking Granite Jacket every day of the week and 4 times on a Sunday.
Who also had a very good game yesterday. Had a really good game yesterday. Funny enough, absolutely.
The words "had a really good game" and Granite Jacket don't count the same sentence.
But they did yesterday because he was arguably.
He got booked. He always put down in 2 sentences, jacket and booked.
Yeah. Right, we'll round out the weekend then. Everton 1, West Ham 0. West Ham still struggling. David Moyes sounded yesterday as well, lads, like a man under pressure. What you thinking there, Marky, at the moment with West Ham?
Yeah, Jesus, like you're 7 games in, Jared Bowen, 0 goals, 0 assists. Antonio, 7 games in, 1 goal, 1 assist. Like these lads were on fire last season. They haven't stepped up to the plate at all this season. Declan Rice has been decent. You know, you looked at the likes of Soucek and all. They just don't seem to be gelling like they did last season for some reason. I would have thought they would have gotten a point out of the game yesterday. Obviously, Frank be delighted. 3 points at home, clean sheet. Maupay getting on the score sheet as well. But yeah, David Moyes, he looked deflated yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, Darren, you always make the point, don't you, from the Thursday European into the Sunday games or the weekend games. It's such a tough task for teams like West Ham who don't have, huge squads, say, to cover this kind of thing, and that's when they tend to falter.
Yeah, I actually tipped Everton to win this game 2-1. That's why 1-0. That's why I was celebrating when you came to this game. I just think it's such a massive disadvantage to have to go away from home on a Thursday night and then rock back up to a Premier League game on a Sunday afternoon. I think the issue with Bowen, and although those stats are stacking up very well against Mason Mount, no goals, no assists, I think the guy looks fucking jaded because he carried West Ham for a lot of last season when they didn't have Mikel Antonio and when they didn't have a striker. The kid put everything on his own shoulders to go out of his way and try and make sure that he kept the ball rolling. And I think now they're paying the penalty for it. He looks like he could deal with a game or two out just to recharge the batteries. I think the boy Skamakis looked very, very good in the Europa games. And we rock up to the weekend again like that against Everton, and he's sitting back on the bench. And I'm just thinking to Moyes, like, you've just given him a bit of a taste of it. He's shown you what he can do. Let him have another bite of the cherry. Let him go and maybe physically get involved with Everton and batter them. And then if you're struggling still, then get the boy Antonio off the bench late on when you know he's quick and he's sharp and he's lively and he changed again.
He scored a cracking goal on Thursday, didn't he, that boy?
It was a belter. Absolute belter.
You need to look away. Now, Darren. Morris is back. Xhaka has been our best player along with Saliba. They have pushed him from our box to the opponent's box, which will lead to less errors.
But that's where
how do you get on at Old Trafford? Just asking for a friend.
Well, come here, Daz. I remember you saying at the start of last season, correct me if I'm wrong, that West Ham had to build a spine of their team, and that's what they were doing. But what I think they kind of overshadowed was building a squad that would be able to compete on a Thursday and a Sunday, and that they brought that from last season into this season.
Yeah, I don't think Moyes was delighted with how the window went for them. I think they obviously got the boy Lucas Paqueta in, spent big money on him. He came in from Leon, nearly 50 million. But I think he wanted additions in lots of other spots and he couldn't get them. He couldn't get guys over the line. They chose to go elsewhere. Yeah. Now again, the boy Skamaka, he's a big coup for West Ham. He was highly sought after. At one stage, that kid looked like he was on his way to PSG. And the only reason why the PSG deal didn't go through was they signed the boy Hugo Ekitike, who had been tipped to go to Newcastle from Rennes. So there was a domino effect there. All of a sudden, Skamaka was free. West Ham jumped all over. I think it's a great signing. I think they're not seeing the benefits of it just yet because he hasn't settled, and maybe Moyes doesn't feel like he's got faith in him just yet. But I think he's a good footballer. Same way with the boy Paqueta. It's going to take you a few weeks to bed in there at West Ham. The one thing I would say, and I actually, when they announced the teams yesterday, I looked. I'm not a huge fan of seeing the boy Fornals and Lanzini in the same team. I think they're one of the same thing. They do the same thing. I think you're going, and I looked at this. Sorry, I'm just going to get the game. So the team sheet, obviously, they played a 4-2-3-1. They had Royce Soucek. They had Bowen on one side. They had Paqueta in at the 10 behind Antonio. And they had Fornals on the left-hand side. Sorry, didn't start. Lanzini didn't start. But the boy Fornals doesn't give you enough width. He's a 10. You know what I mean? When he played in the left-sided position, he comes inside, which creates space. Do you know what I mean? And again, it's back to that balance issue. If you do something on one side of the pitch, you need to get as close to it on the opposite side of the pitch as you can as possible to create that balance. Otherwise, their team becomes lopsided, and then teams are able to pick you off going back down the side and stuff like that. I just think, yesterday, he'd have been much better off either starting with Ben Rama on the left, which he's done, and Ben Rama's been good at times, or the other lads who's had a great start for them is Maxwell Cornet. He's been excellent. Now, I know he generally plays on the same side as Bowen, but I'm sure he could have played on the left-hand side and had him cutting back in onto the right, you know what I mean?
Yeah, good show. Good shout. Let's get into some of the news topics then that we had picked out. We'll start with with Morris. Go ahead.
Can I do the segue?
Yeah, go on.
Right, I'll segue in here. You ready?
Yeah.
I was in work tonight.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the police, the Garda helicopter was flying over the tennis club. Because at the end of the avenue, down the road on the left-hand side, there's a Tesco, and somebody went in, armed robbery in Tesco. Cue our boys in Turin. Leave me dangling here now.
Go on. Yeah, I'm lost.
Oh, Pogba, no?
Oh, yeah. I get you now.
Bing,
yeah.
the penny just dropped out.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Press stop there and we'll start again, cause.
Yeah, I start going. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have it there. Yeah. See, I was going to start because Morris is in the comments. I was going to start with the young lad who came on for Arsenal. So
Was he in the arm robbery
should
as well?
should I say you jumped? Should I say you jumped the gun?
What are you saying? Morris is some sort of reading Charlie Chester or something? I'm going to
No, but I know he wants to talk. I know he wants to talk about this lad because he brought him up in the comment already.
We
so
got Prince Andrew in the comments or something. What's going on here? No, all right.
Yeah. But the boy Mark, what was you thinking yesterday? Ethan Nwaneri, I think is his name. 15-year-old schoolboy on the bench and came on and made his debut yesterday for Arsenal against Brentford.
Youngest ever in the Premier League, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And to put it in context, I think he was born in 2007, I think it is. So he's never experienced Highbury at all. He's only known Arsenal at the Emirates.
That makes me feel old.
And
I'm only 22, like that makes me feel real old.
Again.
When he told me that stat today, it kind of hit me myself because my eldest was born in 2007. And like the thought of my son, now he won't be 15 until December. He's late 2007. But the thought of my 14-15-year-old playing in the Premier League is a scary thought. So like what his parents must have been going through yesterday watching him, and I'm sure they were bursting with pride. But I mean, just even watching him out there, go out there with, like with the big kids and rough it and stuff like that, it must have been tough to watch.
There's a stat from Dave. He was 12 at the start of COVID. 12 at the start of COVID. I was watching it yesterday even with Ben. And Ben was saying to me, he's 4 years older than him. And I was there going, unbelievable.
He probably hasn't done his GCSEs or anything.
Arteta going all in to humiliate Ivan Toney, bringing on a 15-year-old. Brilliant. And I see Gabrielle put up the tweet today as well to kick about with the lads or something like that, because that's what Tony posted last year. Remember when they beat them and stuff like that? But what's your overall thinking on this? I mean, obviously 15, still very, very young. And I suppose we could talk insofar as Morris makes a good point about like the squad depth and stuff like that. You have a 15-year-old on the bench coming on and stuff like that. I don't know go on, Mark.
It's different now. No, I was just going to say it's different nowadays. We obviously know when Rooney burst on the scene at 16 against Arsenal that time, against that goal against David Seaman and all, but it's different. The young lads are well drilled now. The trainings is different. Their physiques are different as well. They even get all this social media training behind the scenes at all the clubs, which obviously wouldn't have been around years ago and stuff. They have all these well-being coaches at the clubs, and so he is in good hands from that perspective. But he must be very, very talented, because if you're overlooking kind of 18, 19-year-olds to put him into the squad, he must have something about him.
Yeah, Morris back. He couldn't share the same changing room with the senior team because he was underage.
Child protection.
I doubt if Brentford had a tour changing room, but I'm just putting it out there. That's it. It's mad to think like 15. Like imagine being 15 and you're playing for your team, and like you're debuting for Arsenal in the Premier League, like at 15. Like it's.
Well, we were all chasing women around at 15. Around Benildes.
Man, when I was 15, I was going around on a BMX and everything and stuff like that. I wasn't even thinking that way. I was still having that kind of fun. And the only football I played was on the road. It was crazy.
I was still playing with wrestling figures.
And nothing has changed. And nothing has changed. Only now you just don't take them out of the box.
I knew you'd like that one.
Morris. He's level on goals with Mason Mount.
I knew he'd say something like that. Or he'd have more chance of creating than Mason Mount.
Mason Mount this season is really going to be that meme, isn't he? That like everything that comes up is going to be Mason Mount.
I was a big fan of him the last 2 seasons. Massive fan of him, but just he's gone off the boil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but so have Chelsea, in fairness. Like, they're shocking shite altogether. You can't pin it on one player either. I do like the boy 100%. Mount. I have to be honest. Like, I think he's homegrown as well at Chelsea, which is a fucking rarity. Don't forget, you know.
Yeah, well, speaking of Chelsea, let's have a chat about Chelsea. Chelsea scouts went over at the weekend to Bayer Leverkusen. Apparently, they were going over to check out on the progress of Hudson-Odoi, but apparently it came out that they were out for there as well, scouting this lad Moussa Diaby, which was an interesting move that came out. So that's just one there for you.
He's a smashing footballer, this kid. A really smashing footballer. He's in the French national squad. Probably doesn't get as much time in the French national squad as his talent deserves. I think if he was at a bigger team, we'd be looking at this kid as one of the top players in world football. But because he's at Bayer Leverkusen, and you know what's happened to him at Leverkusen? Leverkusen have done the exact same thing to Moussa Diaby that Crystal Palace did to Wilfried Zaha. They've priced him out of a move. They've put his stocks so high that it's priced the kid out of a move anywhere. And what's going to happen is he's going to be too old and crinkly, and he won't get the move. So, you've really got to do something there at Leverkusen to try and make sure somebody ponies up that 70 million plus that Leverkusen want to get him out the door, because he's a fabulous footballer, kid, but he's wasted in that league.
It's an unusual move for them as well, because normally they produce some really, really good talent and they do move them on. They don't normally.
Well, he came through the PSG academy, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And but like
he
I
was
read, Arsenal
heavily linked with Newcastle in the summer, but Newcastle wouldn't pony up from him.
And Arsenal Spurs are interested in him as well, apparently. But
yeah, he's a top talent, the boy. He really is.
It's poxy when that happens. Obviously, he's doing wonders at Leverkusen, but because the so-called bigger names are with the bigger teams to get in the head of the French team, it's not right at all,
Well, I mean, when you look at guys like Olivier Giroud and Antoine Griezmann and even Kingsley Coman and Anthony Martial at times, those four players get in ahead of this kid, and you're like, lads, stop the fucking boat, will you? Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, David back in the comments. Even though Rooney was 16 when he came along, he was physically more mature and able to transition.
Yeah,
100%. Shout. Morris back in as well. Bowley said he came through the Chelsea academy. I think Bowley thinks everyone in the Premier League at some stage came through the Chelsea academy. Wanted to talk about this guy, lads. Valverde, absolutely stellar player. Unreal. But he was awarded there at the weekend the Charrua de Oro prize for the best Uruguayan sports person by the Circle of Uruguayan Sports Journalists. There's a mouthful for you. So basically he was a
Hang on, I just spilled a bit on my chin.
Darren, I don't normally pull them together that good, so I ain't repeating it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Darren. Well deserved. I think he's been outstanding for Real. And he was linked.
Isn't he apparently the one player who, when Real were talking about swabbing the decks and getting rid of guys, he was like one of the only players that was said, no matter what the bid, he does not leave the club.
Yeah. No, he's sensational.
And Dazzler, is that the same award that Diego Forlan won when he scored 2 goals in Anfield against Liverpool that time?
Yeah, it is, and it's also the same award as one Luis Suarez got for handball on the goal line against Ghana in the quarterfinal of the World Cup, and for racially erosion Patrice Evra and refusing the handshake and biting 2 footballers as well. Yeah. So it's not a great award, really.
Chelsea and
Yeah.
Well, in this case,
and who was the other one?
Chiellini.
Yeah, there you go now. So, shitty award, really, isn't it?
It's not often someone takes a bite out of Chiellini. Let's say that anyway. I suppose the other thing I wanted to speak about, lads, was obviously the Paul Pogba thing. His brother was brought in for questioning. What did he say here? David's in Valverde for 5 million is unreal.
Yeah.
5 million. I seen Liverpool today actually were linked with him for 85 million, and I don't even see that happening. And they have 5 million, like it's just crazy.
I don't think they'd let him go for 85 million.
No, that's the point I was kind of making. But after,
185 million.
I think you'd want.
what the new cool thing is $1 billion, isn't it? I wanted to bring up a number of stories have been coming out. We know obviously the Pogba one. His brother was brought in for questioning today and detained and held in relation to this extortion case that's going on. And news came out today as well that Pogba was held at gunpoint by two guys, and they only released him.
He was in the Tesco store in Rathout at about
earlier
6:30, and two lads came in on a motorbike, probably from Fingers, let's be honest. And,
I heard the guy on the back of the bike was wielding a tennis racket like Jim Cornette now, but I'm not saying that else. I wonder where
Well, that's stuck for a meal deal, that's like.
Dazza was taking all the steaks. Oh, that, jeez, even the guard a helicopter just for a few steaks, huh?
Cornette.
There you go. Just linked with Mark there, the old tennis racket. Love it.
They call me Jim Cornetto in the club.
And it's not because of the ice cream.
OVW.
Absolutely. But yeah, we seen that it came out that Pogba being held at gunpoint by two people involved in this, and he was only released because he agreed to pay up. Now, obviously, he hasn't paid up. But yeah, that's it's an interesting one there that's going to unfold. But we also had a story coming out there from Dusan Tadic as well, that he whacked and elbowed gun thugs after catching them raiding his home there back, I think in July it was. But it seems at the moment now there seems to be a bit of momentum where footballers now are getting targeted for these kind of
there's waves of it, isn't there? Sure, didn't Kolasinac jump out of the Jeep and chase the boys around London when they were trying to rob the Jeep on him? Him and Aubameyang, wasn't it?
I'm sure it's been happening for years as well. Remember they used to target all the Liverpool
houses got burgled when they were all away on the Champions League games. It's despicable, really. Now, it really, really is. Just the Pogba thing is especially difficult to deal with when you find out it's your brother and stuff like that. Just in case my brother's watching, I know where you live. If you ever try and do anything like that to me, I'll string you up by your nutsack out of light, you swine.
He's ringing up to say, listen, you better do this, or I want all those figures. He knows where the money. He knows where the money is. Figures and promos.
It's like something out Coronation Street, though, isn't it? It's bleeding mad. You would never think that would happen.
It's bizarre. It really is. I could say some more, but I think it's better that I don't.
Yeah, we wouldn't want you to prejudice the case in any way.
No, exactly.
Let's move it on.
Just bring all that steak back to Tesco's, will you? The other thing I wanted to talk about that came out tonight, lads, was we spoke about Kylian Mbappe and about this deal and the effect it was going to have on the lad. This was a fresh-faced young lad who has kind of suddenly become the bastardized icon of football now for some reason. It came out the other day there that he refused to take the photograph with the French national team on the basis of image rights, and that apparently he's been pushing for an image rights issue at international level through the French Federation, and they haven't been tolerating any of it much. And when he refused to take the team photographs of sponsors and stuff like that and all that, apparently it came to a head, and that the French Federation did a U-turn on it, and they're now going to look at it and come to an agreement in relation to image rights, I presume, at international level for the French team. What you thinking on this? This is.
What's changed? Like, remember, you used to go represent your country for the. It wasn't for money or anything. Like, you just went to play for your country.
Honor. Yeah. Passion, pride. You know, think of the amount of guys that didn't get caps for their country. I know a lot of lads would have got caps at amateur level, and I know a couple of lads that have them in their houses and have them in their bars and stuff like that, have them shadow boxed up and stuff like that. And it's just the most amazing piece, you know, to have for your kids, for your grandkids, you know, even when you're in the bar, just, you know, want to act like Billy Big Bollocks, you can, you know, and it's all in jest, but like the lads are so proud. These are lads that did it at amateur level and worked so hard to get there.
The likes of Dave Lacey and all, does it?
Yeah,
out your
played with
way.
Dave at Leicester. Yeah,
Yeah,
played with Dave for a couple of
unbelievable
years.
player, man. Loads of
Yeah.
amateur caps.
Loads of amateur caps.
Jimmy McHugh playing for Oliver Bond. I know him since he was a bleeding kid. He went over to represent the Irish national amateur team.
He's still in the amateur squad. He got named the amateur squad yesterday.
Yeah. No, he was training with them there yesterday and the day before.
There's two lads, Aaron Humphreys and a second lad who are playing for Kilbarrack United. Aaron Humphreys and Jack something, and they're in the same squad as the boy McHugh. And like those lads, they'll be celebrated in their clubs and stuff like that. And that's the way it should be. You know.
So listen, sorry, go ahead.
No, and to have the likes of Mbappe, where he's obviously the kid's obviously got a chip on his shoulder now, and PSG have created a monster there. They'd have been better off letting him fuck off to Madrid, because I don't imagine you're going to have any sort of team unity while you've got a guy like that in your squad. Now some would say you've got Messi and Neymar in there, you've no chance anyway. Like they've probably got three.
PSG it's a collection of mercenaries, isn't it? It's a collection of mercenaries.
Absolutely. Well, I think the boy Lucas Ocampos that's come in, his idea is to try and get rid of that mentality, and it's the point try and buy, players at a different kind of a level, but still make them as competitive and stuff like that. The boy Vitinho and the boy Mukiel that came in from Leipzig. They bought lots of players on a level there, whereas the boy Mbappe he really thinks his own shit doesn't smell, does he? Fucking.
And especially when he should be like an icon for younger players and kids and stuff like that, and all to see that this is the carry on, and like like we've often said on the podcast as well, how much money is enough money? You know what I mean? Like you're earning truckloads of cash week in, week out at your club. They've given them everything, including a spot nearly at board level and an input into transfers and all that kind of stuff, which is way above and beyond what any player should ever have. And now he's trying to take that volume of greed at PSG and transfer it into the national side as well. And it's a national side that has such a great heritage, brilliant players, amazing games, amazing results, trophies, all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of similar to the deal that he got at PSG. It's kind of disgusting, isn't it? Really, it's to do that to your national team. I just don't know. Like
that's where the national side need to be a bit stronger, and just say, not in the photograph. That's grand. Pack your bag and fuck off home.
Yeah, you're not in the team.
And you're not in the team, and you're not in the team until you get into the photograph. And when anyone wants to know why, we'll tell them why. Yeah. We'll publicise why, because your ego is bigger than everyone else's, and you want this deal, and you want that deal, and you want this, and you want that, and as Sir Alex said, there's nobody bigger than the club. In this sense, it's bigger than the country.
100%.
I suppose at this stage, 3 months out from the World Cup, you're tiptoeing around sponsors and everything, aren't you, at this stage?
Yeah, we'll teach him a lesson, though. Listen, I know they won't do it, but if I was France, I'd say, well, you're not coming to the World Cup with us. See how that affects you with all your image rights and all. Now, I know they won't do that, though. That's what they should do. Absolute joke. And it's his agent in his ear as well.
It's probably the reason. It's probably the reason why United didn't get rid of Ronaldo this summer, was because when certain sponsors signed up, they signed up for 2 years of Ronaldo, and there would have been a huge impact to the club if United had obviously sold them, and then the sponsors had to come back and said, well, you promised us 2 years of Ronaldo, now we're only getting one. The deal's gone sideways and blah, 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 and it's really bad press. It's easier to keep him there, even though we can see he's being a pain in the hole around the place. You can see by his performances.
And wanted to go.
You know what I mean? And by his performances, he's not going to run through a brick wall for anybody other than himself. And that's the price United paid because of the sponsorship thing. Shocking.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like we're seeing football now moving in a direction that's not I don't know, in 10 years' time, is it going to be what we...
Can I just preface that with something? Because I actually really enjoyed part of the summer, and the part I really enjoyed was going and watching them girls play football, because those girls get paid absolute peanuts. Now, peanuts. I think the bonus for winning the Euros between about 46 of them was like 500,000. Where if that was the men's team, it would have been 500,000 a pop. Whatever way it was. Those girls were there for one reason and for one reason only. That was to represent that country, to play for that jersey, and God rest her, to play for the Queen, head of the country. That's what they were there for, and that's all they did all summer. And they gave their absolute blood, sweat, and tears for it. And that's the kind of thing we want our kids to see. That's why, I sat my little girl up on my knee when the final was on. I made her watch it, and she said, "Daddy, I don't like football." I said, "It's not about the football, to be here." I said, "It's about watching how these girls are going and working for what they want in life and the backgrounds they've come from. And none of these are special, but they're all working. And when everyone gets pulling in the one direction, it's amazing what you can achieve."
Yeah, I think one of the girls was on Sky Sports there the other day, and she was talking about the preparation and the build up to the World Cup, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I think the issue of pay came up again, so I don't know whether they're at loggerheads again. I haven't paid
But
much
the
attention.
only ones that are equal is the USA team. They're
Yeah,
equal to the men.
but
They're the only ones.
But as Darren said there, this girl who was on one of the players, I forget her name now, she made the point is, in getting preparation for the World Cup and getting the squad ready and doing all the things that you should be doing, they shouldn't even be discussing pay. That should be all sorted out and done and dusted and put in the background. It shouldn't be even
Absolutely.
an influencing factor at this stage and stuff like that. That it should be all about assembling the best squad and giving that squad the best opportunity to succeed and all that kind of stuff. And, dwelling around on pay and stuff like that, she made the point, it's just a total waste of time, like, and stuff like that. It just should be just.
And let's not forget, I mean, the FA aren't short of a few pounds.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely not.
There's more than enough money in the coffers there. And you know what? I think themselves, I think the men's squad, if they had to cough up a little bit of what they get to even the playing field a bit, I think I'd see them doing it. Because I don't think again on the English, on the male level, I don't think they're going to play for the international team to make money. I think it's still a lot of it is about the pride and the passion of pulling on that jersey. And it's important it stays that way. And if the men were to say, listen, we get 10 grand a match and the girls get 3, let's lump it together, we'll all take 6.5 each, everyone's a winner. I think everyone will be happy with that. I don't think the lads would crib and moan at all.
Yeah, no, that's a great shout. And it's something, it is, as you said, it's refreshing to see with them that it's not financially driven and stuff like that. But I think when you're at that level, the money should just take care of itself. It should be what it is. And what it should be and stuff like that. And I think that's a great shout, that if they met somewhere in the middle and there's senior guys in there playing on the team as well that could go forward and make those kind of suggestions and stuff like that and put it in
Absolutely.
there and stuff, So it's not a bad shout at all. The other thing I want to bring up, Yuri Tillemans has broken his silence on his transfer situation in the summer. And he said the reason he didn't move from Leicester was because he didn't find the right project that he felt suited him. Even though he knew that Arsenal had kind of made an approach and stuff like that and were interested in signing him, he didn't kind of feel that Arsenal was the right project.
Well, they also weren't coughing up the cash either.
Yeah, I don't think they were a million miles away, were they? I mean, he sort of all through the transfer window, he kind of floated between 25 and 40, didn't he? And it was somewhere in around that sort of range is where they were going to find a deal. But it sounded like he just didn't fancy the move to Arsenal, which I suppose in hindsight might be a bad move for him because, I mean, Arsenal are doing decent things at the moment, and if he had gone into their midfield.
I was going to say, if Leicester keep going the way they are, he's going to find the perfect project in January. I bet you anything.
I think he'll probably wait till the summer because he's then free. So he'll be able to negotiate everything for himself.
Yeah, and I mean, he can do that from January for external competitions to the Premier League. It's just, but I'd say that's more where you're looking at. If Leicester weren't going to agree a fee, and he's spoken and had conversations with clubs already, and they said, listen, Yuri, we're sitting on our hands till next summer. They can go and make the pitch to him then at 5, 10, 15 million, knowing that's only the signing on fee plus the wages. They'll save themselves 25 mil waiting the summer, and they know they're still in the shake-up to get him anyway.
Yeah. Just one final one I wanted to get both your thoughts on. It came out today. There was an article in the Telegraph that said that Manchester United have overpaid on transfers by 200 million in the last decade.
I thought you were going to say overpaid on Harry Maguire. I was going to say 100%.
Well, he's 80 million of it, isn't he? Or maybe not, you know. I suppose if you sell him on, you'd probably get 40, maybe between 40 and 50 potentially. Somewhere in around that. Absolutely. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, Darren. What's your thoughts on that overpaid by about 200 million? So overpaid. I think that's kind of a little bit on the low side, is it? That's 20 million a year. I mean, when you look at some of the transfers that have happened.
If we spent $1 billion, yeah. If we've spent $1 billion, it's 20%.
Yeah.
And over the decade, 20% sounds about right. It's called the Man United tax. That's what it's there for. You know, club goes in to sign a player and they're quoted 40 million and the deal is nearly done and United want to get involved and all of a sudden it's 50. There's your 20%. It's Man United.
Yeah.
That's
we've seen it multiple times this summer alone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we only spoke about it about 2 weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah. Absolutely. That's the Man United tax. We were getting taxed twice in recent years because we were having the English tax and the Man United tax, where we went through the phase of we want to buy English players, you know, Wan-Bissaka and guys like this, Daniel James, and you know all this, and now obviously we're going Dutch. It's red. I promise you, it's red. But yeah, listen, I'd say it's right, and there's just not a lot we could do about it, unfortunately, as fans or as a club.
Lads, can I just go across you there? Lads in the comments, what colour is Dazza's t-shirt? Write it in the comments right now.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're watching in the comments now, what colour are you saying Darren's t-shirt in? It's I tell you, it's definitely not red. It's definitely not red.
I'm sitting wearing it and it's red, but it's obviously the lighting is kicking in or something.
I don't know whether
I have, you know, I have
those Prada shades you're wearing in the Jeep or something, is it?
No, you know what it is. I have an orange Nike box over there. Silver. The heel in with the comments.
We're not talking about Niall's hair, Morris.
Not black and white.
That's so bad, actually.
I'm looking at an orange Nike box in the bedroom here, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe I'll pick up the box and show you what colour that is next up. Maybe I don't give a shit either, let's be honest.
Yeah, we generally don't get up out of the chairs because we're only in our jocks, are we?
Are you wear jocks, lads? Yes? You wear jocks?
No, well, I don't.
Hence, he's not getting up to get the Nike box.
Oh, stop.
Morris says it looks orange to him.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to take a picture of the t-shirt when it's sitting on the bed later on. I'll send it into the WhatsApp group.
Be Thursday's thumbnail.
And I bet you the first thing Niall says is, that's not the same t-shirt. And it is.
I think you have a number of Nike t-shirts.
I'm actually not
I just assumed you were dressing. You were going like with the Dutch team for the international week. That's why I brought it up, that it was orange. But yeah, it's been a pleasure again, lads. Monday mashup, a kind of a weird one. I won't lie, I thought it was red until you brought it up.
Oh, so 50-50 in the comments.
Yeah, now Dave would have a vested interest there with Darren now as well, you know what I mean? So it's so Dave, now that we brought it up, what colour do you think it is? You thought it was red. But what colour do you think it is now?
Come here, lads. Can I just, before we go, I'm gonna get
on the back. The young on the back. Morris Darren would be the last guy you would meet that would have a name on the back of a jersey. I can tell you that now. If it was free, he wouldn't get it done. Go on, Marky.
No, sorry. I just wanted to get a little serious for a second, lads. You know, I just wanted to give a shout out. There's a young lad, Calvin Gray from Drogheda. He's only from Dundalk. Sorry, he's only 11 years of age. Very talented footballer. He was in an accident there about 10 days ago, and unfortunately, he lost his fight today. So I just want to send me prayers and condolences to his family, his friends, and all his teammates down there in Dundalk. So, only 11 years of age. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them.
Thoughts, prayers, and condolences to everyone involved and who's been affected by it. Absolutely, and him, the young lad himself. Yeah, very sad. 11 years of age, huh? It's home at times, doesn't it?
Sorry, I just wanted to.
No, you're right.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Thursday we're going to be having the show. Thursday Tier Talk. Not sure what the format of the show is going to take, because I don't know. Darren, would we even divulge down into international betting?
Lads,
could we see ourselves doing that?
No.
You know what you have to do as
not.
well, lads, coming up soon? You will have to give a review of all the World Cup jerseys that are coming out. You did it with the Premier League.
I saw a
ones.
little Nike slide the other day.
Did you see the
I
Portugal
saw a
one?
slide of the home and aways for a number of the teams who's having their gear made by Nike, and it was highly impressive.
You should do something like that.
Now, apparently, they're made out of Nike kitchen towel because it's the only way they're going to be able to keep the lads cool while they're playing. But otherwise, if anyone starts pulling the jersey, they'll be just snapping like bits off. Square parts that'll be coming off all over the jersey.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that. We might do something interesting like that, or come up with something inventive. Or if you're in the comments there and you have an idea what you'd like us to do on Thursday, give us a shout and stuff like that. Because obviously we've Stephen Kenny special next week.
Yeah.
How many Stephen Kenny specials have we to do?
Or you can just you can talk about your favourite Europa Nations moments throughout the years.
I was saying to Mark earlier, and I was saying to Ben earlier as well.
20 minutes out of
that. I was saying we should have a load of beers on Saturday and do a drunken watch along to the Scottish game or something like that. Would be hilarious. Can you imagine?
I'll be watching Strictly, lads.
There's worse thoughts, yeah. We could have
Strictly.
You know what I thought today? I won't plug them. But I was watching another podcast today on my phone, you know. It's quite a famous podcast. And they've ex-pros in. And it's given all the stuff from the changing room and what went on in such and such a changing room.
Would they be sipping a few beers around the table, Dazzler?
They would be, Mark. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I know.
Yeah. And
I know the one. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
And I kind of thought to myself, wouldn't it be lovely to hear stories from around our beautiful country of stuff that happened in amateur changing rooms and in stuff like that, you know? Or even stories that were shared while in the change room. Because I don't know about you lads, but my life's not been the same since I left the change room. I have to be honest.
You're right.
Neither is any of your playing mates.
Two of them are robbing Tesco tonight.
Especially the bloke that had to sit next to me with earmuffs on.
All those newspaper cutouts nailed to the back of the door and all. Yeah. You told me that story. Classic.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. No, we'll come up with something good for Thursday. I don't know. I suppose we could do a preview of the international stuff, but it's kind of like I was getting.
Shells are playing Rovers on Thursday. You could do a watch along of that.
Yeah. I was getting Darren. I was getting AFCON vibes thinking about that in international preview, and that was tough going for us as it was. And this ain't much different, really. This Nations League is, it's horrific.
When you think of the AFCON, what word got you through the AFCON when we were doing it? Or what phrase? I'd say if we look back
at the
we used the phrase. I'd say we used in the episodes we did. I'd say we used the phrase "Festival of Football" about 712 times.
Yeah. And colourful, and Festival of Football.
Festival of Football.
Yeah. And refereeing was used quite a lot, and VAR was used quite a lot. Not used at it, but just used as a.
Could have been used at it, Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, it was bad, all right.
There'll be a few League One and League Two games. That's what you could do for Saturday.
Do you know I would, but my phone on live score doesn't scroll down that far. Unfortunately, it should, but it
think it broke my finger. What's going on here? Why is he like Christy Brown with his thumb there?
Accrington Stanley.
Yeah. So Mark, even when you send in your championship bets, I'm there going, now it's QPR versus Birmingham. Now I'm not sure which one this guy plays for. So now you started sending them.
Yeah, last week I started sending the team who they actually play with. I thought you might have known.
When he said Marky's done us a favour here, I started laughing. I says, he's named which team he's picked the goal scorer from. And he went, he hasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. 100%.
Because you'd be like, is it for QPR. It might be. Is it? You're like trying to guess.
See, I know the Blackpool one is always the Blackpool one, but the others I just hadn't got a clue. Like it's just,
God.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we will be back Thursday night, as we said.
Are you doing a beat the bookie on Thursday, lads?
No.
All joking aside.
If you want to conjure up a few bets, look, we'll have a laugh and stuff like that. Maybe as past some of the time on the show and stuff like that. But I suppose we'll come up with something. I don't know. What are we gonna? We'll come up with something to fill the hour that we do and stuff like that. And
lads,
get
greatest international moments for Ireland. There you go.
There. Top 10. We might do, our top 10 Irish international moments or something like that. Something like that would be a bit of fun or something like that.
Richie Sandler making his debut against Russia.
Go on. You want to give away your number one already, do you?
I'll give away my number one because nothing will ever beat it. Packy Bonner making that save in the penalty shootout.
Absolutely. And Brendan O'Carroll pouring the point over his head.
Over his head in the snapper.
Remember that?
The van.
The van, yeah.
Pinballs, walkers.
How much have you got? £6. Oh, $6.50. Hang on. He takes the point out of the walker.
Have you got a chocolate?
What does that say? Pinballs, walkers. Does it say anything about chocolates? No, well, fuck off.
He's only a kid.
That was
he weighed about 18 stone, the kid he did. It was quality.
Brilliant.
So I would say about 90% of the people in the van I know because that was made on the road behind mine.
No way.
Well, the van.
Roddy's from out that way, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he's from Donecarney, stroke Leicester.
Yeah.
He lived there, but he was the English teacher in Greendale Community School, which my brother and sister went to. It's actually at the top of my mum's road, like you can see it from my mum's garden. But he made the snapper and the van in Kilbarrack, and then part of the commitments was made there as well. But my mate, I'm gonna give him a shout out, Jonathan Monaghan. He's a big Liverpool fan. He watches the podcast now and again, and he's a big wrestling fan as well. Niall, you'll like this guy. He lives in the house from the snapper.
Okay.
Yeah. So he every year on the anniversary bought the gaff, he says, and he writes the same post every year. Can't believe I've done 14 years in Desi Curley's house. Can't believe I've done 15 years in Desi Curley's house. Can't believe I've done 6. And then we know the people that live across the road in Georgie Burgess's gaff as well. It's gas.
Morris going in on Kenny. The draw with Qatar as his moments, or Finland doing the double over us. We had lots of possession. I think we'll come up with some. Yeah, I suppose, Darren, what we'll do is we'll come up, and Mark as well, we'll come up with like sort of our top, international Irish moments, and maybe our lowest moments as well. We'll put a few in there as well, just to flavour it up a bit. And yeah, we'll take a look at those jerseys as well. We like looking at the
against
kits
Macedonia in the old orange kit. Remember
that? Yeah, with the black and all on the side. Yeah. A few of them kits upstairs. Yeah. But there is some really good. When you look back, there's some great moments. I'm sure. Listen, we were all out in the piss for most of them. So, bar them 6:30 kickoff or 8:30. Yeah, man.
The best part of it, and I know we can mention this because I'm not getting anyone in trouble because this was the norm at one stage. When you were a kid. I was born in 1984, so in 1990 I was 6 years of age, and we used to drive to the pub to watch the game. My dad had 6 or 8 points, and we drive home because it was normal. That's what everybody did.
No, you meant you drove home, not the dad. You drove the dad home.
I could be fucking safe for 6 years of age. But it was mental. Everyone was getting into their cars. Absolutely below to drive home from the pub. And you just scratch your head and sit back and you think, like, what a fucking mad time to be alive. Like, do you know what I mean? Now, there's a lot of things have changed like that now. We're more educated about these things and we make better decisions. Like, I personally wouldn't have one drink and get in the car and drive. But to think back, like, there was guys getting helped into their cars so they could drive home. You're like, what
Forget about
this?
even that. You remember when we won? Remember in '88 and '90 when we used to win matches or draw them and all? Like the bonnets of the cars and the roofs of the cars would be full of kids driving
Yeah.
around. Remember you see that video online, the Walking Sound Roundabout and all that
Roundabout,
kind of
yeah.
stuff? It was mental. Mental. I remember it, like I remember going into Penny's. Penny's used to do all the football T-shirts. So the character T-shirts. So every week when someone came in, they'd have Kevin Sheedy and all these guys as caricatures on these white T-shirts for the Euros and all that kind of stuff. That was super.
So lads,
mental.
do you remember? I have it upstairs still. Do you remember for 1990 the coins? And
Yes.
we used to collect the coins with the players' faces. I have them still
Yeah.
upstairs. I must bring them down and show you.
Yeah.
But it was great time.
It'll be worth a few pound, Marky. We'll have a look for that for you.
Oh,
a collector.
That's what I was thinking. Figures in his head there.
You want to be careful, Mark. Or that guard, a helicopter will be over your house now in about 20 minutes. You're getting a tennis racket to the back of the head. Absolutely. Well, listen, lads, a pleasure. If you want to contact the show, it's the upper tier podcast at gmail.com. You'll find us on all social media. We're live on a Monday and a Thursday, as always. We'll be back Thursday. We'll figure out the format beforehand. We'll let you know in advance what we're thinking of doing. And of course, you can chime in and let us know your memorable moments from Ireland's international history. And we will talk to you again real soon. Cheers, lads.
Cheers, lads.
Thanks, lads.